video which is about Britain, splendid isolation and leading into the Moroccan crisis. The end of the 19th century, Britain was very happy to have little role in European events. It was happy to remain isolated. Um, we didn't want any one country, however, getting total control of Europe. So we're happy to remain on the outside looking in, but we didn't want any one power dominating. Okay? Now, this policy would become known as splendid isolation. Now, this was dependent on Britain's navy. Britain had the best navy in the world at this point. Obviously, we're an island. We were unlike France, for example. France had its issues with Germany. Germany could come across the border into France, and this is what European countries could do. Britain's an island, so at this point in time, if you wanted to invade Britain, you had to basically have a better navy than Britain. So Britain was quite safe and quite happy behind its navy, stopping invasion, and also using this navy to connect us to our vast empire in terms of trade, in terms of communications, and in terms of just running it. Okay, now if you would ask someone from Britain at this point about who was worrying us, the two main worries would have been France and Russia, right? And now France and Russia obviously had signed an alliance, and the question which could be asked from Britain would be, what if this had focused on Britain? What if this alliance had turned on Britain? Okay, we've had hundreds of years of bad relations with France at this point, and we were having our issues with Russia as well. On the flip side of the coin, before 1900, our natural ally should have been Germany. Germany was not a colonial power at all. They hadn't built an empire, therefore they weren't a rival. And at the same point in time, Kaiser Wilhelm was the grandson of our Queen, Queen Victoria. So the royal families were related. So what would happen from here on is pretty strange. Now, two areas that would make Britain question our splendid isolation. Remember, this is, we have the British Empire at this point. The first one is in 1898, Germany starts to build a navy. And this confused Britain. We couldn't understand why. Germany didn't have an empire, right? And at the same point in time, they had the strongest of the European armies, the most advanced one. So the feeling within Britain starts to be is, are they wanting to challenge our naval supremacy? And also, why does this navy exist? Why is it there? The second one was in 1899. We're in the Boer War. The Boer War's in South Africa. So as I've mentioned, Britain has an empire. Okay, we have an empire. It is why basically Britain is such a huge power, and this would last until 1902. This involvement in South Africa in the Boer War. Now, the British actions in South Africa were widely condemned. A lot of people didn't like what Britain was doing, and rightly so. And most of Europe would sympathise with the Boers, with the South Africans. But the Kaiser, unlike these other European countries, he actually comes out and says something. He makes his views publicly known. He publicly puts his support behind the Boers, and Britain's upset. We don't understand why this has happened. So now Germany sort of upset Britain. Now, Britain would sign an alliance. Now, this should be, it's not something we do in splendid isolation, but in fact it made splendid isolation even more splendid because the alliance was not with a European country. In 1902, Britain signed an alliance with Japan. It was called the Anglo-Japanese alliance. And this alliance basically saw Britain and Japan promise they'll help each other if either was attacked. So splendid isolation is even more splendid. We're not going to get dragged into any type of European squabble, any type of European power dispute. The Boer War had ended as well, which meant there was, with no European action going against Britain, we didn't need an ally in Europe. Japan being in the east meant that basically we had a handy ally against Russia, and it meant Russia couldn't expand in the Far East. So it's keeping Russia in check. Now, what did happen was the Entente Cordiale, the friendly agreement. As I've previously mentioned, Britain has worries about Germany's navy. Okay? Now, Germany couldn't challenge Britain at this point in time. but they could hold the balance of power if our problems would get worse with France and or Russia. So in 1902 we have the three power standard comes in, and we basically make our navy as big as the next three fleets in the world put together. So if Germany had gone with France and Russia, Britain would still be able to remain in isolation, and the isolation would be splendid. We'd be safe. We wouldn't be able to be invaded by sea. Now, Germany didn't want an ally in Britain, and it didn't want an ally in France. Okay, and Britain obviously is having issues with Germany starting to happen. So Britain and France, we decided to sort our issues out, and from 1903 to 1904 we see the Entente Cordiale, the friendly agreement, come in. Now this was not an alliance, okay, it was what it says, it's a friendly agreement, and what Britain basically says is to France, go ahead, we're not going to get in your way. If you wish to take Morocco into your empire, we're not going to make it awkward. And at the same point in time, France agrees they're not going to interfere with British business in Egypt. Okay, so we have this friendly agreement signed. It's not an alliance. We're not interested in Europe, in Britain, and basically it sorts out any issue of who's going to get involved in Egypt. We've got Japan there to protect us from Russia. We've got the three power standards, so everything from the British angle is hunky-dory. It's great. Sadly, Germany didn't see the same view as this. They didn't see this way. Germany saw the Entente Cordiale as Britain coming out of isolation. Germany saw it as Britain having joined with France. Okay, so Germany now saw Britain and France together as friends, and this will explain, as the next video will show, why Germany will go into Morocco. They are testing out the friendship between Britain and France, the Entente Cordiale. Thank you.